And good morning, Wareham. It is Friday, August 21st. We have a great show here for you. The news headlines, the weather report, and today in history. This morning, we'll be hosting the chairman of Wareham Planning Board, Mr. George Barrett, to discuss the proposed zoning changes on Main Street in Wareham. In addition, did you know that the Wareham Fire District is on fire? Not literally, because that will be an irony. Mr. Barrett will be addressing the district's recent high score by the state and what this will mean to your wallet. But first, let's take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show set. So stay with us, because the news headlines and the weather report are up next. Okay, Wareham parents favor a hybrid school reopening approach for this fall school year. Wareham Week reports the district received over 1,650,000 responses from a survey sent out to parents earlier in the month, asking parents to weigh on how they wish school to proceed this fall. Wareham Superintendent Dr. Kimberly Sheverhood said that the hybrid learning approach breaks the students into two cohorts. All students will be required to wear masks while in school. Exemptions will be made to those who cannot due to health issues. Wareham schools are scheduled to resume on Wednesday, September 16th. Each school will be hosting a virtual meeting for parents before the first day of school. And we'll have those details for you as the week proceeds. Wareham to apply for 2 MassWorks infrastructure grants. Wareham Week reports that the grant will be applied to improve the roads and utilities in the industrial parks and as a sewer line beneath Charlie Road. MassWorks is a competitive grant program ran by the state that funds infrastructure projects with the goal of supporting new housing or business development. Town Administrator Derek Sullivan said that the town has better chances this year to receive this grant due to the low volume of applications received by the state. The grant is for over $3.5 million, with the remaining $120,000 to be paid to the town if the grant is received. And the state has released its guidelines for the fall sports. Alicia Santil has more details for us.
School is scheduled to return next month, but the future of fall sports is still uncertain. As the coronavirus pandemic continues, the chances of playing high-risk sports like football and soccer are very slim. Wareham High School Athletic Director Ed Rodriguez says he hopes to have more plans for us next week. The states have divided sports into 3 categories: low, medium, and high risk. They also require students to stay 6 feet apart and minimize the use of sharing equipment. I'm Alicia St. Cyr reporting for Wareham TV.
Thank you, Alicia. And a Marion resident bikes to eradicate racism. CPCN Week reports Coke Whitworth biked across Massachusetts to raise $1,000 for the Tri-Town Against Racism, a local grassroots organization that is teaching the community about what it means to be an anti-racist. Whitworth is a photography teacher at Tabor Academy. He was inspired to raise the money after attending an extensive anti-racism professional development program hosted by Tabor over the summer. Whitworth wants people to know that they should not feel alone in the fight for racial equality. Also, an unlikely rescue in Marion this week. CPCN Week reports that the Marion Fire Department responded to an unusual call after showing up to assist the animal control officer in rescuing a horse and a mule stuck neck deep in the mud. The incident took place on Sunday, August 16th. Police had received a call about a mule, Gurley, and a horse called Tech, who was stuck deep in the mud at Merrill Farm on Converse Road about 5 p.m. The mule and the horse were able to escape this predicament unharmed through the help of a barbed wire fence. Wow, I wish I was there. That would make great picture. Anyways, that concludes this morning news headlines. We'll be right back with that weather report.
Social distancing and staying home are the best ways to limit the spread of COVID-19. But if you must go out, make sure you cover your face. You can use anything that covers your nose and mouth, including dust masks, scarves, and bandanas. But leave the surgical masks and N95s for healthcare workers. Remember, masks slow the spread when you must go out. But staying home and social distancing are the best ways to protect yourself and others. For more information, visit mass.gov/COVID-19.
Okay, a lovely day today with temperatures in the mid-80s. Also sunny tomorrow, Saturday, August 22nd, with temps in the upper 80s. The same great news goes for Sunday, August 23rd. It will be a cheerful week with plenty of sun and here and there showers. Don't let it ruin your day. Anyways, that concludes this morning and this week's weather forecast. We'll be right back with more.
We want to talk to you about medical emergencies.
The kind that would result in a visit to the ED before the coronavirus hit.
The kind that would start with chest pain and sweating.
Or with difficulty speaking and drooping of the face.
Or an accident like a fall or the slip of a kitchen knife.
These are still the kind of emergencies that require a trip to your local emergency department.
Despite this pandemic,
We assure you hospitals are doing everything possible to keep emergency departments clean and safe.
And we are here to provide care to you and your family, but you must not delay.
Because when it comes to your health, time can be the difference
between life and death.
If you experience a medical emergency, call 911 or go to your local emergency department.
Wareham schools are scheduled to resume next month. They will open with virtual learning, while a hybrid learning approach is expected to start sometime in October, given the trends on COVID-19. And we cannot speak about a hybrid reopening approach without addressing busing. Earlier this week, I spoke with Jamie Andrews, the Transportation and Facilities Director at Wareham Public Schools, to discuss busing this fall. Take a look. Good morning and thank you for joining me. With me in the studio is Jamie Andrews, who is the Transportation and Facilities Director for Wareham Public Schools. He is here to discuss transportation coming this fall, especially when we are talking about a hybrid reopening approach sometime in October, given the trend on COVID-19. Welcome. Well, I am so glad you were able to be in the studio this morning to discuss this important issue. When you hear a hybrid approach, reopening approach, what comes to your mind?
Not normal, something different.
And how is that something different? Look at your part.
You're just used to seeing kids going 5 days a week, 7 to 8 hours a day. Now it's in a hybrid model that the schools propose. It's a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday approach. So kids, it's just not normal for them, and for the staff as well.
And for you too. You have to manage busing. You have to manage all these kids. So let's talk about the nightmare regarding figuring out whom is going to be bused at what day, at what hours, and how it's going to work.
Right, yeah, I go by what DESE has given me. That's the Department of Education, Secondary Education for the state. And they've pretty much told us that you can have a maximum of 25 students per bus. because of social distancing, they got to have at least 3 feet on the bus with masks. So it's going to be very challenging to figure out how we're going to get the kids in to school this year.
How many buses do we have in Wareham?
With vans and buses, we're probably in the 30 to 40 range, somewhere in that.
So if you have to have only 25 students in a bus versus how many?
Usually for high school, middle school, it's about 50. And for elementary, it's up to 77. Because you can fit 3 elementary kids in a seat.
So they slashed about 50% and more.
Mm-hmm.
Is that doable in Wareham?
It's doable because we at least have a bus application process where the parents have to fill it out online, and then it goes directly to me, and then me and my staff, we put them in our routing system, and then we're able to get a better idea of how we can do it and where we can fit everyone.
Now we have heard testimonials from parents, some saying yes, students, their kids should return back, and some are saying no, we favor remote learning. So with that said, how many applications have you received so far?
Probably about 650 in that range. I think I have about 300 plus on high school, middle school, and elementary that are actually routed on the bus right now. That's out of over 2,000 kids in the district.
Do you have a saying on how schools should reopen?
I think they're taking the right approach now, starting remotely, and then slowly seeing how everything plays out. Like, we don't know if there's going to be another wave that's going to come through, and we don't want anyone to get sick. So I think they're starting off right, and then trying to hybrid the kids in. Because some of these kids, you got to remember, they haven't seen other kids since March. And on an everyday basis. Mm-hmm. Like, they need some sort of normalcy, because I know certain kids will react well to the remote learning, and then some kids just can't handle it, and it's a big burden on their parents too, because not all parents are able to stay home with them. They have to work, they have to provide. So I know, being a parent myself, it's not an easy thing.
No. So when you say they're doing this the right way and it's the right approach to move forward, I'm very interested to know about your dilemma in this.
As far as what?
Busing involved, and depending on what approach the school is going to stick with, whether it's going to remain completely remote or we're going to transition to a hybrid approach. How much work would that entail on your part, and how much time do you have to prepare?
But by them starting to remote at the beginning, which is probably more beneficial to the transportation side, because now I can take the time and go through the applications and set and make sure everyone's got their assigned seats. The bus drivers are comfortable, they've learned the protocols and what they can and can't do, and how cleaning the whole process is going to go. By them starting remote maybe in October, it could be later. October is just more of a kind of like a guide date. If it moves on farther, then we just proceed as we go. As far as the facilities part, my custodians have to make sure they're going through the right protocols. They gotta constantly be cleaning and spraying down and wiping, and that's gonna be a big challenge. Not only for the custodians, but for the teachers who have to come in every single day and teach in a class with nobody there. Like, I'm not a teacher, so I can only imagine being in the classroom 5 days a week by yourself, teaching on a screen.
This is not the perfect time to dream about teaching career, is it?
No, not in this time, unless to be a teacher, you're not doing it for the money anyways. You're doing it because you love to teach kids. So it's just, I guess they can look at it as a different challenge, something they've yet to do as a teacher, but well prepared for it. I have faith in them. They have good teachers here in Wareham. I went here, I graduated. I have nothing but good things.
Wow. Wareham raised and bred.
Yes.
Fantastic. What are the bus drivers saying? What would they like to see? Would they like to return back to work? Are they afraid?
There's some that are afraid, because I have a lot of older drivers with not the best medical issues. So they're always going to be a little skeptical coming back, because they're more apt to get something if it's contracted through a student. Because with the state regulations, we can't provide them with much kind of safety. We can't put up any like blocks around the driver's seat or any plexiglass or anything like that. It's pretty much them wearing a mask and kids coming onto the bus kind of hoping for the best, that the parents are doing what they're supposed to do, the kids feeling sick, they keep them home. But as far as protecting them, there's not much that we're allowed to do. So a lot of them feel an unsettling feeling, and then some of them are excited. They haven't worked since March. They want to get back into it. It's not easy to just stay at home for months on end without doing anything.
Have you lost drivers?
I've had 2 that retired.
Okay.
So they've been driving since the 80s, so they found that this was the right time for them, whether if it was for the COVID reasons or they just were finally done, but I lost 2 of them this year so far.
Do you need more bus drivers?
This industry needs more bus drivers. We could use tons of bus drivers. It's just it's a dying job right now around the country.
How is bus driving a dying job while we still have schools?
People just, for some reason, just don't want to drive bus, whether it's they're not wanting to hang out, wanting to be with the kids all the time, or it's not an easy thing. Like, I'm not a bus driver, I don't have a license. I've ridden on buses just to see how the kids react and how the drivers go, and it's not easy being in charge of 50 children, sometimes screaming, sometimes yelling, standing up, walking around, and you're constantly trying to keep your eyes on the road and peek in the mirror and look on your left, look on your right. It's not an easy thing, believe me. It's nothing I would want to do.
Now, there are more restrictions now imposed. You talked about the limit on capacity of students you can have in a bus. Also, students have to wear masks at all time. They have to not touch, be by themselves, keep a distance. Will bus drivers have additional help in the bus to reinforce those precautions so they can focus on the road?
All of our sped transportation right now, they all have a monitor anyways. So that's our town law, or the school bylaw, whatever you want to call it. So they all have them. As far as the big buses, we don't have enough of them. We don't have enough monitors or aides, whatever they go. We don't have enough to put on every single bus to help the bus driver out. So most of the time, the bus driver is just by themselves. Would we love to? Yes, we'd love to have a monitor there to help a little kid if his mask falls off or if they're jumping up and down, because these kids are going to be excited when they finally get to come back and be on a bus and get back to some sense of normal. But yeah, we don't have enough to go around every single bus.
Who is vouching for the bus drivers?
What do you mean?
Who is helping them articulate their point of view and reach some compromise?
We've put little committees together so that they can voice their opinions and their issues. We sit down with the superintendent. There's probably a committee of 3 or 4 different drivers that drive special education, regular in-district kids and then out of district, so we get a little point of view from everywhere. But they have their union, they have their shop steward, and my door's always open. So they can always come in and discuss privately things that are going on. So they have ways to get their message out as long as they're willing to take it. But so, like with anything, some drivers just don't want to talk, or they feel like if they ask that question, they just feel weird about it, and you can't help that. But they do have outlets to go to explain and ask questions and voice their concerns.
How is busing going to work for special need students?
They are in the same guidelines as everyone else. Those buses are obviously smaller, so they won't be able to fit 25. I think our max is going to be like 13, because during the plans they want us to leave the seat behind the driver open, because that's pretty much their only protection. So then we load one in every seat, going one next to the window, the next one will be in the aisle. So they're always kind of staggered to keep their 3 feet. And then the DESE has allowed us to put siblings to sit together.
Okay. So come October, some random day, in October, when the school decides, okay, maybe it's safe enough to try the hybrid approach, how many routes would you be making a day? Are we just going to be seeing the buses all day long, picking up and dropping off kids?
We've been proceeding as normal.
Yeah.
So we know that the kids are going to go to school for 4 hours at a time on those days. So we'll pick up in the morning as usual, high school, middle school. They'll have their assigned seats. They'll have their 25 on the bus. They'll get dropped off at the regular time. Then obviously in between, we have to disinfect and spray down all the buses, let everything dry before we start our elementary runs. And then we'll bring them in for school as well. So we're trying to keep that as normal as possible, not only for the students, parents, and also for the staff.
Tell me about late buses. Are you going to be offering late transportation?
No. As to start the year, we are not offering, since there's going to be no sports to start, there's going to be no late bus. Kids won't even, because the late bus usually comes at 3:30 anyways. The kids are going to be long home before that. So they'll be going to and from school every day, that's it. The days that they're in their model.
Wow. So how confident are you, how ready are you to tackle this?
I think we're ready. I do. We've been working on it. We're just waiting now on rosters to let us know what kids are going on what days. And then we've planned ahead so that we can just start plugging kids in, and then boom, we're going to be ready to go.
You know, I normally ask people if COVID-19 has, what changes or influences has it had on their jobs. I would like to extend that same question to you. Where do you see this industry busing going, and how much has COVID really influenced the industry?
As far as the industry as a whole, it's definitely put a scare into a lot of drivers, because you're not able to be protected. Like, the best protection I can offer you is the empty seat behind you, and whether you want a shield or a regular face covering. So I think if I was a driver, that'd be kind of unsettling to me, especially if I was an older driver who had medical issues. But as far as, that's pretty much as far as you could go with that. But as far as the industry and everything else, it is what it is. You signed up to drive kids and get them safely, and you've taken responsibility for that 50 to 70 kids, and you're the one person that's got to get them to and from safely every day. So I hope the industry doesn't die. I love to see more people out there training and becoming young, because when I got into this industry, they told me it used to be a job for working mothers, for mothers, because they could put their kid on the bus to go to school, and they would bring the kids in themselves, and then they had all day to do whatever they needed to do, and then they come back in the afternoon, drop all the kids home, get their own kids, and then they're home by 3 or 4 o'clock. But I guess throughout the years it's kind of changed, and it's kind of been more of a dying thing, where I meet with directors throughout the whole state monthly on Zoom meetings, and then before COVID in person, and they're always trying to find drivers. For some reason, it's just not an industry. I don't know whether it's pay, whether it's appreciation. I don't know why it's going in the wrong direction. It's going fast.
Would you like to add anything that I didn't ask?
No.
A man of few words. Well, thank you so much for being
You're very welcome. Thank you
here
for
this
having me.
morning. To our viewers, thank you for watching. My guest is Jamie Andrews, who is the Transportation and Facilities Director for Wareham Public Schools. We were discussing transportation this coming fall, especially when we are talking about a hybrid reopening approach, what that will mean for busing. With that, thank you for joining us on this interview. If you have any questions, I am sure Jamie would love to hear them. And with that, have a lovely day. Bye. Hello, and thank you for being here with us this morning. We are broadcasting live from our WCTV studio in Wareham. This is Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather, and more information. And now, for a moment in history, let's take a look at where we were today in history. All right, today in history, aka I like to call it, where was Bob White today in history? Today in 1959, Hawaii becomes the 50th state. President Dwight Eisenhower signed a proclamation admitting Hawaii into the Union. The new American flag featuring the additional state was made official on July 4th in 1960. On this day in 1980, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, also known as PETA, is founded. PETA is today's the world's most controversial animal rights organization. And also today in 1974, the Equal Education Opportunities Act takes effect. The new law addresses civil rights issues in education, making it illegal for schools to discriminate students on the basis of gender, race, color, or nationality. The law also required public schools to provide for students who do not speak English. And per our tradition, for today's birthday, shout out goes to Usain Bolt. Bolt is a Jamaican former sprinter, widely considered to be the greatest sprinter of all time. He holds the world record in the 100 meters, 200 meters, and 4x100 meters relay. He was born today in Jamaica in 1986. He turns only 33 years young today. And happy birthday to everybody else celebrating their big day today. That is all we have for today in the history segment. To learn more cool historical facts, you can go online under history.com. Stay with us. We have plenty of more for you.
Social distancing and staying home are the best ways to limit the spread of COVID-19. But if you must go out, make sure you cover your face. You can use anything that covers your nose and mouth, including dust masks, scarves, and bandanas. But leave the surgical masks and N95s for healthcare workers. Remember, masks slow the spread when you must go out. But staying home and social distancing are the best ways to protect yourself and others. For more information, visit mass.gov/COVID-19.
Today's cell phones are not only an extension of our arms, but a life tool. Hello, I am Maureen Farrington from Advantage Custom Apps. I am here today to talk about a certain app, a tool that will help you navigate your way through the Wareham community. The WCTV app places your local community in the palm of your hand. The app is a place where you will find local events, town meetings, local and school sports, community interest stories, compelling interviews, and most of all, the ability to shop local. Connect to the Wareham app by going to your web browser and typing in wctv.app. And then, once you bring up the web link, you have the opportunity of adding WCTV's app to your home screen. Once you download the app and save it to your home screen, you will then have the opportunity to, with the touch of a finger, hit the call button, which we call WCTV, the refer us button. You can refer the app to your friends and families. There's a Facebook share button if you'd like to put that on your Facebook page as well. And here is the menu tab. On the menu tab, we have YouTube videos, new program proposal, events that WCTV is hosting, a photo gallery, contact button, and can lead you right to their website. We also have a Shop Local tab. When you touch on that, you'll see the local businesses that you can frequent. Also, there's an About Us tab telling you some information about WCTV, their hours and directions. This here will take you right to their Facebook page. There is a donate button if you would like to donate to WCTV, and a join button that will let you join their community. Many local establishments are listing their business on the WCTV app. And you can too. It's a great way to showcase your business to your existing customers.
My apologies. Welcome back. So right now we have with us Alicia St. Cyr, right? Yes, okay. She is a grad student at BU. She is studying journalism of all things, and she is actually going to be hanging out with us in the studio, learning here and that before she gets out in the world and become a big shot. Anyways, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here. You almost hosted this morning.
I know. I was a little nervous, but excited.
Excited. Oh, you have your little earbud there.
I forget
It's a
about
habit.
it.
It's okay. It's a habit. It's a habit. Okay. So you're going to BU for journalism, right? Tell us what's been like to be a student during the pandemic.
Well, during the pandemic, I got an email from my school. They were canceling in-person classes. And I was a little excited because I commute to school, so it's about 2 hours, and like the workload sometimes is a little bit too much, and I have an internship, so it's hectic. So I feel like coronavirus kind of gave me a time to just breathe. I was doing homework at home. Fortunately for me, I wasn't affected negatively by corona. I don't know anybody who, passed away by corona, so for me, it was great. My parents were home, my family was home, so, it gets a little crazy with your family being at home. I wasn't used to my mom being at home for 3 months. She took 3 months off, so it was a little...
She was not used to
No.
you being home. She's talking about you were not used to her being home. She's the one paying for the bills. So we heard a lot about what it means to learn virtually, and they, especially when it comes to college, higher education, students are saying it's not the same equivalence to being in the classroom. So were you nervous that you were not getting the best education you could possibly get for your grad program?
I think they should have lowered tuition.
Oh.
That's what I personally feel, because it's not worth it. My mom pays $20,000 a semester, so she still had to pay $20,000. And then this semester, BU raised their tuition. So before I was paying $20,000, and now we're paying like $30,000 for the semester. And they're saying because of Corona, they have to like update things and whatever. But I think it's truly unfair. As for the classes, I think the teachers tried their best, but it was not smooth. It was crashing and burning for my classes. I don't know about anybody else's classes.
Now, your major, it's a unique one. It's very hands-on, especially at this level you're at, right? You need to work with the equipment. You need to be in the studio. You need that back and forth feedback, right? And so I could only imagine how that was restrictive for you. Now, you have an assignment, and that is to get your packages together, right? I call it resume reel.
They call it demo reel, visual resume, or it's all the same thing, essentially.
Tell me some of the stories that you were able to cover throughout the pandemic, or other ideas that you wanted to encompass in your demo reel.
Yeah, so I did weather from my house.
Oh.
So it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing the classes online. My newsroom class was a little hectic, but we did it all through Zoom. We would meet for 3 hours on Zoom. A week before, I'd have to prepare my interviews, and then I would do that on Zoom. I would screen record the interview, and then I would edit it into Premiere and put my voice over. So it was, in a sense, easier for me because I didn't have to go out and meet this person, but it's not as personal. You're not meeting the person, you're not talking to them, you're not feeling their energy. It's over the computer, so it's not as personal. That's the only aspect that I didn't like about it, but it was still the same quality of journalism.
Okay. Now, you are scheduled to graduate this December.
Yes.
The economy is not doing so well. More people are not working. They're at home, right? They do not know what tomorrow is going to bring. So as a soon-to-be graduate, what are your worries?
Finding a job is definitely a worry for every graduate from college, but I'm just going to manifest a job and stay positive and work really hard, and hopefully, that will be enough.
Yes, absolutely. That's all we could all wish for. As I mentioned previously during the interview, that you need hands-on experience, and you have been hanging out here in our studios, right? You've been learning. So far, what idea, how have you concluded this industry? How do you view being a journalist?
I've worked with this other lady. She's a cameraman for Channel 7, and she always tells me, like, you're going to learn more on your first day at work than you'll ever learn in your program at school, and it was very true. The first day that I went out with you, I learned so much about myself, about my journalism techniques, what I need to work on. I was really self-critiquing my videos, like I did this wrong. So it was really nice to get a hands-on approach versus, you know, being in my bedroom talking to somebody on Zoom. It's not the same. And on Zoom I can practice and practice and practice, but here it's like live. You have to just go out and do it. So I really liked the experience. Everyone needs that experience. You have to just go to work and learn.
I think the technology has made it quite easy for all of us to do our jobs. Well, not all of us, unless you have a real hands-on, labor-intensive job. But to be a journalist, or what you're hoping to do one day, you mentioned Zoom, you can still conduct those interviews. And now Zoom interviews are accepted. So guess what? You can host an interview from a fellow in another continent, right? You broaden up your horizons. So are you taking advantages of this current climate?
Yes, I am. I think Zoom is actually a wonderful app, and I'm so happy for it. The technology has grown. It definitely has been more accepted because we can't meet with people anymore.
What are your challenges right now?
My biggest challenges would be to find my voice, the bass in my voice. They say that singing helps open up your throat chakra. So your throat chakra is just basically that aura in your body that helps you speak and speak up when, you know, people are mean to you, or speak up when something makes you uncomfortable. So throughout my life I've had an issue with that. I've been very quiet and, you know, I observe, but as a journalist, I'm finally finding my voice, and I want to be the voice of people, the voice of the unheard. So it's very hard for me, but I have to power through it to be this powerful journalist. I want my voice to be heard because I have something important to say.
Fantastic. Well, you so far so good, and I hope you continue here with us, you know, sharing with us what you know, what you have learned, and hopefully we can also return a favor by showing you a thing or two. Today you almost hosted the show, right, because of my little emergency, so that would have been quite the experience. So really, I'm so grateful to be sitting here with you at this early stage of your life, about to embark on your career, about to graduate in December, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. Okay, to our viewers, just a reminder, my guest is Alicia St. Cyr, a BU, well, soon to be a BU graduate. She's there studying journalism, getting her master's degree in journalism, and she hopes one day to appear on your widescreens at home for a talk show. I believe you said you want to be a talk show host.
Yes, like The View.
The biggest dream. Oh my God. She will get there. Anyways, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to bring our main guest of honor. Stay with us.
We want to talk to you about medical emergencies.
The kind that would result in a visit to the ED before the coronavirus hit.
The kind that would start with chest pain and sweating.
Or with difficulty speaking and drooping of the face.
Or an accident, like a fall or the slip of a kitchen knife.
These are still the kind of emergencies that require a trip to your local emergency department.
Despite this pandemic,
We assure you hospitals are doing everything possible to keep emergency departments clean and safe.
And we are here to provide care to you and your family, but you must not delay.
Because when it comes to your health, time can be the difference
between life and death.
If you experience a medical emergency, call 911 or go to your local emergency department.
Social distancing and staying home are the best ways to limit the spread of COVID-19. But if you must go out, make sure you cover your face. You can use anything that covers your nose and mouth, including dust masks, scarves, and bandanas. But leave the surgical masks and N95s for healthcare workers. Remember, masks slow the spread when you must go out. But staying home and social distancing are the best ways to protect yourself and others. For more information, visit mass.gov/COVID-19.
Good morning and welcome back. Our Good Morning Wareham show continues. With me in the studio is the chairman of the planning committee, right? Planning board, Mr. George Barrett in the studio to talk about, there's a overhaul zoning change proposal that was to be discussed in August, August 17th, but the meeting has been postponed to now September 10th. So to discuss about what that those changes entails. In addition, the Wareham Fire District has improved its score. So what does that mean to your wallet? Welcome, sir.
Well, nice to be here. You've got everything covered. I can leave now.
Aren't you funny? So let's talk about this big zoning change that the town residents were to come in and chime their input. This was scheduled on August 17th, but now has been postponed. What does it entail? What are we proposing?
Well, as far as the zoning aspect of it, what you're doing is taking a section of Main Street and allowing some relief from parking, allowing mixed use, meaning residential, commercial, and making it more attractive for development or redevelopment. There's some other issues going on that are part of the redevelopment authority that really don't have anything to do with zoning, so things could get a little confused. But back in, I think it was around 2006, we did a zoning rewrite, and the intent was to put mixed use back in the villages because it's an obvious choice. It helps the property owner to keep the building and make it profitable, which gives you lower rents and be an incubator for small business. That somehow got eliminated from the zoning at some point. I'm not sure when, because there are some mixed-use structures down there. You've got restaurants with apartments over the top. But if we put it back in the zoning bylaw, it makes it as of right, so it makes it easier for building owners to do it.
Okay.
You know, and it gives you another source of income. Some of the parking, what they've done is they brought in a group of developers who looked at Wareham Village, and they see the value in it and see where we could change a few things and make it more desirable for people to come in. And residential being the biggest component of that. Now, whether that's a precursor to the commuter rail coming and having walkable, residences to, walk to the train and get to where they have to be, or whether it's good overall. You see how it works well in Onset, where most of the buildings have a residential component, and it gives you people that are there all the time. It's not they just come in for the workday and disappear and turns into a ghost town. Wareham Village is active. People would be surprised at the traffic counts and the visibility you have on Main Street. And part of this zoning bylaw will accent that. There is a little controversy whether one of the issues was to raise the maximum height of the building to 60 feet. Some people have some apprehension about that, but I think...
Why are they apprehensive?
Well, that's quite tall, and Main Street is kind of small, but I think...
make it happen in Onset, though.
There is a couple of buildings up there that are probably 60 feet or better. And my own opinion is that's maybe something you want to take on a case-by-case basis and not just make it a blanket, because when you look at planning and zoning things, I have gotten into the situation where I want to see where it can go wrong. Everything looks good and sounds good when it's presented, but somehow somebody manages to take it a little too far. So we'd like to keep it a village and not a apartment complex. But
wow. So the key thing here said to make it more attractive to developers. ongoing or people who are still there? I mean, is this to invite people to come and build?
It's a little bit of both. You know, it avails the existing property owners to improve, develop, or make their site more marketable, to be able to retire, sell their property, retire, or move on to something else. And I think the intent is to make it better for all involved. The people that are there have been paying taxes on Wareham Village for all these years, and to bring some new faces in.
Very good, very good, very good. So the meeting on August 17th, what was the goal for this?
That was originally to be the public hearing. Whenever there's a zoning article, we have to hold a public hearing on it. But because of a posting glitch, we could not pull that off. But that's what we do. We hold a public hearing prior to town meeting, get public input, and depending on the input, we can either start over again and do it next town meeting, or sometimes there are minor things that you could handle with an amendment. But normally, because of timing, you can't squeeze in a public hearing, rewrite it, have another public hearing, and get it done all before town meeting. So it's a little bit cumbersome as far as meeting the deadlines and stuff. But.
Now the changes, the zoning changes there, it also mentioned that they will look on tweaking around rules on drive-throughs. Are we trying to get a drive-through on Main Street?
Not Main Street, in the strip commercial district is where that applies to.
Okay, sorry.
There's only a couple of districts, well, I think it's just general commercial where drive-throughs are allowed. And I think the intent of that is so we don't get the situation like you see on Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, where you have lane crossing issues and accidents and have to put median strips down the middle of the road. And there's some properties it's just aren't suitable for drive-throughs because of the traffic issues. Yeah, a perfect example is if you try to get to Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street certain times of the day, you come down the hill, you can't go left because the traffic is so bad. Dunkin' Donuts is a major, that's probably your major drive-through. And the lane crossing incidents hadn't been so much there. There've been a lot of McDonald's and that type of thing over the years because they've been there a lot longer. But the intent, you know, rather than the Board of Appeals have to act on each and every application, because drive-throughs are a fact of life these days, they would like to see it in the bylaw to simplify the process.
Okay. And then, of course, we have the Wareham Fire District that just recently improved its rating from a 3.9 to now have been classified as Class 2.
Right.
Where do we start?
Well, that's ISO rating, Insurance Services Organization, I believe is and they set standards for industry, ISO certified, and they also rate water and fire departments, and I don't know if they do municipalities as a whole. But what they do is they look at your operation. They rate your response times, the locations of your stations, whether you have a career staff on duty 24 hours a day. Yeah, they also included the water department in that. They look at their safety regulations and town water. Having town water is a biggie on your fire services rating. And they grade you on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, and I mean 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, and we're now at number 2, which is fantastic. This basically, my understanding is it affects your commercial insurance rates, but it also affects residential to a lesser extent, because I think they kind of lean their rate structure toward commercial. But it's a positive for everybody.
What did it take for us to make such an improvement?
You know, I don't know the particulars on that. It could be that we have more staff now. It could be just the I don't know what bumped us that last little bit, to be honest.
Equipment,
know-
I'm thinking.
We have updated some equipment, and I have some news to you on that score. And probably just the overall operation of the district. And you know, we're about ready to bring the water treatment plant online, which will eliminate a lot of the discolored water that people are complaining about.
Oh, we see it.
We've, and they've, you know, not recently, but in the past, I don't know if it's been since the last rating, but we have expanded water into other areas of the town since, you know. Anyway, yeah.
Now, so this improvement from 3.9 to class 2, it's going to save us some money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do we know by how much?
I don't know that number.
Okay.
Like I say, most of those ratings affect commercial rates, but there is a trickle down into residential rates. I don't know what that percentage would be.
Oh, very good. Well, this is some good news. Yes. Always an improvement is good. It would have been.
It's a pat on the back to the hard work our guys do, you know, to always improve and have a top-notch fire and water department. I think we've been pretty successful at accomplishing that. We've got a good group of people, and they get the job done.
Now, reverting back to the zoning proposal, the meeting now has been postponed to September 10th.
Correct.
Right? Have you been getting any feedback? What do you think the turnout will be?
I don't, that's hard to judge. You never know who's going to speak on it. The feedback I've got is apprehension about the height of the buildings and what you're going to end up. They don't want to see a, you know, worst case, you'd see a canyon down Main Street with these huge buildings. On the other hand, you look at the apartment building at Rosebrook, and it came out quite nice. So, you know, some people worry about blocking water views, and some of the buildings down there could use some updating, and I think, you know, there's a give and take there. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the main feedback I've gotten, is apprehension about
the height.
What we ended up with, yeah.
Okay. And of course, we want people to understand what is at risk there, to be well informed before the fall town meeting, right? It will be horrible that people do not know these things are taking place. This proposal, whom initiated this? Was it the business owners on Main Street right now saying we need some help?
Well, the planning board itself we've wanted to see the residential component put back into the village, allow mixed use. In fact, we'd like to see it used more often because it allows your small business and your local companies and property owners to provide another profit center that would keep rents down overall and keep them functioning, have enough money coming in to pay your light bill, and you know, because things get expensive. You know, it's getting so the little shops that you see in area towns, especially on the Cape, those little shops they're living on the edge, especially in the days of COVID, where, you know, they're trying to make a living with not a lot of resource. And if you can add something else that will defray the cost of that building, you benefit small business. And you provide more living space. So
yes. So after the proposal passes, what's next?
Well, that would be, of course, entered into the zoning bylaw. We're looking at talking about a little more about multifamily units because there's been some controversy over how those are put out there. And I think we're looking at a new era in housing where you're going to see multi-units, either duplex or bigger, be more of a part of the residential component because of the cost of things and less space to deal with. And the zoning bylaw is kind of old school in that respect, where, you know, we don't want duplexes in the neighborhood unless the lots are huge. And if you look around to other areas, you can see where they handle it very nicely. We did do some definition changes on multifamily, but that's kind of a technical aspect that needed to be cleaned up. Probably a little more flexible zoning, because that's the nature of things, where people look on a commercial basis. They look for small areas where they don't need public access. They just need a small area to build things. And our zoning bylaw is kind of restrictive in that respect, where it's cumbersome for somebody to set up a small business in an obscure piece of warehouse space that isn't serving anybody's purpose. You know, that's one example. Zoning is evolving. You know, after being pretty much stable for decades, probably, you're seeing a change in how people want to use their property, have to use their property to make it viable.
Very good, very good, very good. All right, so I hope people are reaching out, and I hope people are asking questions. Better yet, I hope people will be there September 10th.
It's always good to get public input, because you know, you can be in a bubble when you look at this stuff all the time. So.
Very good, very good, very good. And I'm happy to know that our local businesses are going to have an opportunity to increase themselves or their properties, because those mandates have already been implemented if this passes. So they will have the chance to better themselves. That's good. And always cheaper rent is fantastic.
And that's kind of the beauty of the village. You're not paying, you know, mall rents and things like that. So it allows somebody to come in and have a small business and put in their 75 hours a week and still have some money in their pocket. You know.
Fantastic.
And like I said, Wareham Village is still a high traffic, high visibility area, and it is very busy, especially if you go by in the evenings when the restaurants are. You'd be surprised how it's almost hard to find a parking spot some nights. So, you know, yeah, some days it looks like a ghost town, but that's the...
That's not the story. That's not the full story.
Right.
Well, to my viewers, thank you so much for joining us this morning. My guest in the studio is the chairman of the Wareham Planning Board, Mr. George Barrett, in the studio to discuss the proposal, the zoning changes proposal that is going to be discussed on September 10th. You are invited, so come and voice your opinion. He also touched upon the pat in the back for our Wareham Fire District for improving their score from a 3.9 to 2.
I have a scoop for you, too.
And he has a scoop for me. We will hold on to this scoop. We'll hold on to this scoop, and you will hold on to the scoop too, because tune in next week to hear the scoop. With that, anyways, if you missed us this morning, this show will air this evening at 6 p.m. It will also go on our YouTube channel at Wareham Community Television on YouTube. Thank you for being with us. Have a fantastic weekend. I will see you on Monday. Adios.